Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to learn more about the status of your co-op's future site. As you likely know, member owners received an email last week explaining that the co-op board has unanimously voted to stop pursuing the site on 7th and Main. So I'm here to share more information with you about that decision. Some of you will have heard some of this before since it's been shared previously through our board updates, but just to get us all on the same page, I'm going to go back a little bit and explain how we've come to this point. It's a lot of information and a lot of details, so just bear with me. Members of the co-op site team and Brent Dahlstrom, the developer, first had meetings with city staff regarding a potential development to house the co-op on the corner of 7th and Main in the summer of 2020. Pursuant to those meetings, Brent's team submitted a site plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission in early 2021. After that meeting, Brent was asked to put a pause on trying to move the project through the city approval process while discussions were had to find a parking solution for the second floor tenants that the city would agree to. Numerous options were considered, including underground parking, but ultimately it became clear that underground parking was not a financially feasible solution. At that point, the developer decided to remove the second floor of the building altogether. Even though that would have meant less rental income for the owner, that decision was made in an effort to reduce or eliminate actually any potential barriers to city approval regarding tenant parking and to move the project ahead. This past summer, we became aware that changes to the city code were being discussed and were likely to be approved by the end of the year. We had meetings and exchanged emails with the city asking whether a new site plan submission would need to meet the old code, that is the code that was going to be still in effect when the plan was submitted, or whether it would need to meet the new code if and when that was adopted. The city was unable to provide an answer to the question at that time. So the developer and his team kept moving forward and submitted the latest site plan to the city on October 25th of 2021. As it turned out, the new code was approved by the City Council October 27th. At that time, we were told that the city would not review the site plan at all, and that it did in fact need to meet the new code that had gone into effect after it was submitted. Although we were extremely disappointed that this had not been indicated sooner, the developer asked his team to again go back to see what, if anything, could be changed in the site plan to help it to meet the new code. The real sticking point with this new code is that 80% of the lot lines fronting the three streets, so for this project, the Washington, 7th, and Main streets, would need to be occupied by a physical building. That is to say, parking or a driveway to parking could only front 20% of the linear feet along those lot lines. This essentially means that the building would need to be shaped like an extended U, so like a long sort of flat U, along Washington, 7th, and Main, and that parking would need to be on the interior of the lot, accessed by a driveway. The simple fact is that for a grocery store to be financially and operationally feasible, it needs to be rectangular or square in shape. If you think about any grocery store that you've ever gone into, you'll realize that that's the case. No grocery store with any hope of succeeding would locate in a U-shaped building. There are many reasons that the building needs to be square or rectangular rather than U-shaped, including for back of house needs like delivery, storage, stocking, the turning radius and loading of a forklift, all these practical issues, not to mention for the shopper experience. So at this point, it was clear that we had two choices: either ask the city for an exception to the new code or move away from the site. We did consider asking the city for an exception since their adopted visioning statement says that they're working to have a grocery store, and specifically the co-op located downtown. After discussion, however, we decided that the likelihood of the city granting an exception was extremely unlikely and that the process would likely be very long and not result in a positive outcome. So although we were disappointed, given all the time that has been spent on this, not to mention the substantial costs to the developer, the board has decided that the best path forward at this point is to move away from the 7th and Main site in order to pursue other more feasible options. In fact, we are already vetting a different downtown site and are having preliminary conversations with the developer and the city regarding that site. In the interest of confidentiality and because no contracts have yet been signed, that's all we're able to say about that potential site right now, but we will definitely keep you updated on developments as we're able. Again, thank you all so much for your interest and attention. We know that this is a very long process, but we take the financial feasibility of this project very seriously and are making the decisions necessary to make the co-op successful long term so that it can positively impact this community for decades to come. We appreciate all of our almost 1,200 member owners and investors. We will keep working hard on your behalf, and we look forward to sharing more positive news with you soon. Finally, there will be a Q&A session coming up next week to give members an opportunity to ask any questions you might have about this pivot. So please watch our social media accounts for information about the date and time for that. Thanks. Take care.